all installed, the band kept the heavy metal cause alive, playing regular gigs at London pubs such as the Bridge House in Canning Town and the Ruskin Arms in Manor Park.
Well, the Ruskin Arms obviously is like the bastion of Iron Maiden. That's where we started in Manor Park, East London. And the governor there at the time was Joe Lucy. He was like a welterweight champion, like a Lonsdale belt holder. I used to box up there myself in the gym upstairs. So we went and played up there. It was fantastic. And we went up there. We was our own crowds in East London, you know, the people would come from all over, come and see us. It was sold out, it was great, it was like something new, it was all happening, you know. It was quite exciting. So we'd put on more of a show than ever. And we had our geezer Dave Lights, who'd done our lighting for us. He'd done all these, like, all the flash bombs and everything in bloody orange crates on the front of the stage by the monitors. We got upstairs, I got a pair of leather trousers on. I spent 60 quid on them fuckers. And I wore them for the first night, and he let the flash bombs off, and they all melted and burnt all my bollocks. That was the first night we played back at the Ruskin as Iron Maiden properly. So loads of stuff goes on. You forget loads, but somebody will remind you of it. So they was all haphazard, but I think the sheer enthusiasm of the band and the sheer wanting and love of playing and the love we was getting from the fans, and we're giving back equally as much. And we had a lot of fans even back then, in them days. When the album came out, it just went astronomical, but it was unbelievable. You felt, I don't know, I think I could safely say for the first time in my life I sort of felt I was worth something. That's what's cool. I went home feeling that there is life after drudgery, if you know what I mean, or a life on the dole in East London, a life without nothing, you know, basically, you can actually make something work for yourself. Not still thinking about, oh, we're going to be the best thing since sliced bread, but like, you can actually do this, you know, and even if you went back and worked in a factory after that, at least you have a couple of days a week where you're playing and like, you get over that, don't you? Like, it's great.
He's an absolute nutcase. He's a likeable nutcase, a very likeable nutcase, if you get on the right side of him. But he's always been a bit of a loose cannon, which I don't think he'd mind me or anyone else saying, because by his own admission, you know, he is. So that's Paul as a person. Paul as a singer, outstanding. One of my favourite vocalists of all time. And can still cut it now like he did in Iron Maiden. I mean, in certain respects, his voice has got stronger. I think he had a real kind of punk edge to his voice, but he also was one of the pioneers of that kind of high-powered falsetto sort of scream, which is inherent on the first two Iron Maiden albums. Everyone talks about the raw kind of punk sound, or the rawer, punkier sound that the first two albums had. And I don't think that was necessarily in Iron Maiden's sound before Di'Arno became their lead singer. I think he turned up with his kind of Barrow Boy East End attitude. He had short hair, and although they were always credited as being kind of a metal band, he certainly brought out more of a punk edge to them, which you can hear on the two albums that he made.
By late 1978, having established a strong local following, the band soon realised they needed a demo tape. In December, Maiden went into Spacewood Studios near Cambridge to record Prowler, Invasion, Strange World and Iron Maiden.
First time I heard of Iron Maiden is when they started turning up at #1 in the heavy metal charts that Sounds used to run. I mean, Sounds was the rock paper in the 70s. Overtaking Enemy, Outselling Melody Maker, it was the big one. And we used to run a heavy metal chart. Iron Maiden started coming up. No one had heard of this band, Iron Maiden, yet they kept being #1 week after week after week. And this chart was being done at one of the few rock, heavy metal rock discos that was around at the time, a place called the Sound House, which was like a sweatbox on the side of a pub in Kingsbury, run by a guy called Neil Kay, who was a peculiar-looking man, like a sawn-off cat weasel. But he would encourage young bands to give their demo tapes in. And Maiden's demo tape, I think they recorded it New Year's Eve 1978. And for a night, the early months of '79, they were being played at the Sound House, and the kids loved it. They couldn't get enough of it, and every week they were making Prowler #1, and the other tracks were all in the top 10 too. So we thought we'd better look into this. You know, something's going on here, and we sent down Jeff Barton, and Alan Lewis came up with the title "New Wave of British Heavy Metal" for this phenomenon that was happening there, of which, as we now know, Maiden were not only the front runners, but also the definitive article.
When we did the Soundhouse days, these were all Steve's songs, Invasion and Prowler and stuff like that. So, you know, these are songs I've just learned. So we went into Cambridge Space Ward Studios to go and record it. And as I said to you earlier, that was the first time I'd ever caught a dose because we didn't have anywhere to sleep. So we went to a pub and pulled some nurses. And I was the only one who ended up with one, and I'm sleeping in her bed in her quarters, and all the rest of the band were on the floor. So that was quite interesting. But it was my second ever recording experience as well, and it was really cool. But I listen to these things nowadays, I'm like, God, I had no idea whatsoever as to what I'm doing now. But that was really cool. We'd done an EP. The EP sold out. We'd done 2,000 copies. We sold them out within about a day of them being released. So we then suddenly started realising there might be something here with the band, yeah? That was it. Lyric writing, I sat down with Steve. He had most of the ideas, but I sat down. I had a rough idea of what I wanted with Running Free. I wanted the old Gary Glitter drum beat on it, so it was pretty commercial to really what I was going to do, but I had this idea and I knew it was going to work, and it did work, so I wrote the lyrics to that. Remember Tomorrow, just before my grandfather died, I wrote the lyrics to that because it means something to me. I think until I grew up a little bit more, I mean, I will say one thing, I am a good lyric writer. I do write nowadays as well a lot. It's not like written by a monkey, there's a lot of thought goes into this, and it's normally a little bit political, but now, them days, though, it wasn't so much. When I wrote Killers, though, I still had that in my head. When I wrote the track Killers on the second album, the actual lyric is like a three-way split. It's about the guy who done it, what the public says, and, you know, and the aftermath of it all. So I tried to sort of keep things interesting.
When Di'Anno joined, things started kicking off in terms of record company interest and things like that, because I know that in the early days, record company scouts would see Iron Maiden and they'd say to Steve Harris, well, you've got something here, but we're not going to sign it because you don't fit in, because it was all about the Sex Pistols and so on and so forth. So although by no means Paul Di'Anno turned them into a punk band, there was kind of a crossover element, I think, that he brought that maybe made record companies think, wow, look at this front man, you know, maybe we could sell this to the punk kids and to a whole nother audience that should be out there waiting.
The band's demo tape also came to the attention of Rod Smallwood of the MAM agency. After listening to it, Smallwood offered his services as their manager and subsequently booked a series of gigs all over the UK to allow the band to build up a nationwide following. He also arranged dates in or near central London to get record companies to check out the group. One such gig was a sold-out showcase at the Marquee Club in central London. A concert that was ignored by just about every major label, except for EMI Records. In December 1979, EMI Records signed up Iron Maiden to their roster of rock acts. Over the Christmas-New Year period, the band underwent even more lineup changes. Clive Burr and Dennis Stratton took over on drums and guitar respectively.
They contacted me. I met them up at the old ship in Wardour Street next to the old Marquee. We had a long chat and introduced ourselves to one another, and it went on from there. They gave me some demos of what they'd done that when they were due to start recording on the first album. I went to a rehearsal with them, but it was pretty awkward with the rehearsal because I didn't have a drummer either. So we were sitting in this rehearsal studio. Paul Di'Anno came in, Dave Murray came in, me and Steve were sitting there and really just running through different tunes. One of the tracks that they put to me was Phantom of the Opera, and so I took it away. I worked on the song, and then I started working on the harmonies of the songs to make them just sound. I've always been in the harmony guitar bands years before with Wishbone Ash.